Hey, y'all, Happy New Year! Before we dive into today's episode, I wanted to let you know a quick update about the show. I'm so thankful for everybody's feedback and my Instagram DMs, emails, and reviews on the show. And I'm so blessed to have such great guests come on and share all their book marketing knowledge. But I know we sometimes need a hot minute to process and take action on everything we've learned before hearing the next episode. So with that in mind, I'm moving the show to a fortnightly schedule. And if you don't know what fortnightly means, just like I didn't know either, it's a super cool way to say every other week. Shout out to one of my podcasting mentors, Alana Dawson, who taught me that term. So every other Thursday, there will be a new episode released, and there just might be a bonus episode from me squeezed in between. So y'all, today I'm so thrilled to welcome my sweet friend, Courtnaye Richard, to the podcast. I met Courtnaye in 2016 at the Declare Conference for Christian Writers here in Dallas. She was launching her first book at the time, and I loved getting to know her heart for both following Jesus and marketing the message he gave her. Her newest release, called Inside Out with Courtnaye, is a 52-week devotional to help us grow from the inside out 1 week at a time. You know, it's hard to trust in what we can't see, right? That's something we all struggle with, especially at the beginning of a new year, not to mention year 3 of COVID. I couldn't wait to have Courtnaye on to encourage us all as we grow in our walk with God while He's walking us through our book marketing plans. Courtnaye knows all about marketing books during a pandemic. Her last one launched right before our shutdown in 2020. Plus, I recently discovered that Courtnay's the founder of her own faith-based PR, marketing, and mentorship agency. So you know we're going to be talking about that too. We don't call this book marketing mania for nothing. So let's get to it. Hey y'all, welcome to the Book Marketing Mania podcast. I'm your host, Kim Stewart, and I'm so glad you're tuning in today. Hey, Courtnaye, welcome to the Book Marketing Mania podcast. I'm so glad you're here today.
Oh, I am so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me, Kim.
You bet. So everybody heard me gush about you in our introduction. For those of our listeners that might not know you yet, can you share a fun fact about yourself?
Sure thing. I love roller coaster rides. I love amusement parks. So me and my husband, actually, when we got married, we went to Disney World and we had such a blast.
That's super fun. I used to do that when I was younger, but gosh, as I've gotten older, I cannot do that anymore.
Share this real quick. I was at a speaking engagement and I was in Green Bay recently and I was like, oh my gosh. And I was looking at all this stuff in the airport and I was like, I wonder if there's an amusement park around here because I would love to just go get on a couple of rides while I'm here. There was not an amusement park. I just want to say that, but I sure was looking for one.
Wow. Oh my gosh. You really do like those. That's so fun. I would love for you to share with our listeners about your newest devotional. Tell us a little bit about it and who your target readers are.
Awesome. So yes, so the target audience is women, mostly married women, but single women. Hello, they can read it as well. But usually women who are married with kids, the age for my audience is pretty much 35 to 55. And so, of course, there are women who read the book and, listen to my messages and things like that who are younger and who are older. But that is my target audience. But the devotional is really to help women to go deeper in their walk with the Lord on a weekly basis. So it's a 52-week devotional, Inside Out with Courtnaye, where it's all about growing in your walk with the Lord from the inside out. And it just really helps women to just dive in and set a specific time to just be with the Lord, to sup with Him, to get into the Word, to do a topical study pretty much once a week. And so there's just no excuses. You can totally do this, whether you have a local Bible study that you attend or just you want to do something, on your own. And I also encourage women to actually maybe host it with a group. You can do a Zoom talk or you can have women over at the house and do this devotional. So it's just a real intentional guide for women who just want to go deeper in their walk with the Lord.
Oh gosh, I love that. And I love that it's divided up into weekly, right? Because you can just go through it throughout the year, or you could divide it up. So tell us a little bit, because I know from looking at your release date that you released this during the pandemic. Will you tell us a little bit about that? Because I know you do a lot of speaking, and I know that probably changed during the pandemic, but I'd love to just hear what that was kind of like for you during that little bit of troublesome time that we've had going on.
Yeah, because we were all inside, Kim, I thought it was great to actually do a global study. So I invited women, I did a promo and I put it out there on social media, and I just invited women to join me right through for 52 weeks, for January to December. And we're almost finished. We're almost finished. We're
Oh,
going into
yay.
November. But we did it globally and we did it on Zoom. We did it online. And so it's just awesome. And one of the things that I do, it's a monthly theme. And so one of the themes is trusting God. Another one is, Christian character, which I'm very, very big on. Then sharing your faith and controlling your emotions. That was a big hit. And right now, we are in the month of October where we're talking about unity in the body of Christ. And so it's just been going really, really well. And it's just been something where women can just get together because we hadn't been able to get together live, but we were able to do it online. And so I just, prayed about it and went ahead and promoted it. And here we are with a whole class full of women who are just hungry for truth. I love it.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, what a way to wrap up this year. Definitely soaking up God's word. So that was one of my next questions, was to ask you about the theme of just trusting God even when we can't see. And as you know, as a writer and speaker and author, it's sometimes that's really difficult, right? We just want to control everything and feel like we have to worry about it ourselves, versus sometimes we do just kind of have to let it be in his hands. And can you give us kind of some tips for our listeners about that, whether they're bloggers or authors, just how they can learn to trust in him?
Absolutely. One of the things I would tell you is to dive deeper into the Word of God on trust. Like, seek out trust scriptures. If you're struggling in that area when you're waiting on God, or you're just waiting on Him to move in your life or in your situation, or waiting on Him to just open up opportunities and doors for you, whether that's speaking or writing a new book or working on a devotional or just some big opportunity that you've been waiting on, I would just say to just really dive in deeper into faith and trust scriptures. There's so many in the Bible. And what that's going to do is it's going to strengthen your faith walk during that time while you're waiting on God to move in your life. And so, of course, we know Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. And in all your ways, acknowledge Him and He shall direct your path. And I think about that verse. If we take it in bite-sized pieces, it is so powerful, right? Trust in the Lord. Lean not into your own understanding. Don't worry about your own understanding. You're not going to understand a lot of things that are happening in your life, especially when you're waiting on God to do something. But just trust that He's a big God and that He is going to direct your path as you acknowledge Him in the process. And so when we do that, and even finding a book maybe on trusting God and waiting on Him, I think that is going to be very, very big for you as you just, trust Him, as you wait on Him, because it's not easy. It's definitely not easy to trust God because you don't know what He's going to do. You don't know what He's doing in the background, but He is definitely working, and He's a faithful God. And when He moves, you are ultimately going to give Him the best glory that He can ever have, because when He moves big, right? He moves big.
Yes, so true. So true. I know it is hard to wait, but yeah, we do have to just trust that he has called us to this message, right? He's going to do great things with it. So I also wanted to ask you, and I can't remember if this is a theme in your book, because I know I've heard you talk about it, about boundaries and self-care both, because right, we have to have good boundaries to have time for self-care. But I'd love to have you just kind of speak into either of those topics or both, because I know a lot of times we need to set those up so that we do have time to just spend time in the Word and to trust Him, right? To have good boundaries so we can take time to just relax and know that He's got our messages and He's going to do great things with it. But as you know, again, you have a huge busy speaking schedule and you write and, also a mom and wife. And it's just, all the things that we kind of stack up those hats and we don't always take the appropriate time to just rest and take care of ourselves. And I know that does start with good boundaries. So I'd love for you just to speak into that a little bit for our listeners.
Sure thing. Absolutely. So one of the things I would say for your time spent with God and setting that healthy boundary is to have it be a non-negotiable. You have to just make it a non-negotiable. My husband always talks about that. So plan it and then don't let anything get in the way. Now, there's God shifts and God wants to do anything He wants to do. Sometimes there are those emergency moments, but for the most part, a lot of those emergencies don't happen. And so it's just really just kind of planning it out either the day before and saying, you know what, I'm going to spend 30 minutes or I'm going to spend an hour with the Lord first thing in the morning. And then you just make that a non-negotiable. You silence your phone. You don't start answering emails. You don't start, taking care of any social media, responses or anything like that. And you just really really focus in on spending that quality time with the Lord and allow the Lord to just take you on this journey, right? So when you block that time, whether that's 30 minutes or an hour, like for me yesterday, I mean, I had that time and I have my study Bible. And that's what I mean. Let him take you on this journey, because one verse led me to another verse, led me to another verse, and another verse. And it was just such a rich study. But guess what? I wasn't answering emails. I wasn't messing with social media. I wasn't doing any of those things. I wasn't on phone calls. It was just a dedicated boundary. It was a dedicated time for me and the Lord. And it was just so refreshing. And so that is what I would suggest, is just make it a non-negotiable to spend that time with him, block that time and let nothing get in the way of that. And that is setting a healthy boundary.
That's so good. Yeah, I think that it's so hard, right? Especially when we're writing for him.
Oh, yeah.
It can be hard to set aside that time to just see what he has for us personally today. And then, yeah, when we get back to marketing our books, we're so much more refreshed, right? Have great ideas and know again that we're doing what he's called us to do, and we're not chasing after different things. Because I know in something I read of yours, you had talked about, the difference of like doing God things versus good things. And I think, gosh, we get so tangled up in that with our book marketing and our promoting, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So I know with your first two books, if I'm not mistaken, those are both self-published, right?
Yep.
Which kudos. Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine that undertaking. So, and again, seeing you speak and, you're writing lots of places. It's amazing what you do for your platform, Courtney, as a self-published author. But I know you did mention you actually have an agent kind of shopping your next book for traditionally published, maybe contract. So I'd love to hear just, a lot of times we hear when authors are in that position of attracting a traditional publisher, it's all about, building your platform. So I would love to hear what you're doing as an author today to build your platform.
Absolutely. Kim, you have to do all the things, right? All of the things to grow that platform. My space, my jam is Facebook as well as Instagram. I'm also on Twitter as well. But one of the things I will tell you is you're going to have to invest in yourself, invest in your platform. And so one of the things I'll tell you is Facebook ads. I mean, it's the way to go. It's a great way to build your email list, because that's really big with traditional publishing, is they really want to have that hefty email list, because that increases buyers, right? You're bringing in your audience a little bit closer when you have your email list, and you can sell to them better. And so they're already warmed up to you. And so one of the things to attract new buyers, new people, new leads, is to actually do those Facebook ads, because they actually work. They definitely build. So think about those freebies, what you can actually create, those lead magnets where they can give your name and email address. And then, like I said, you bring those people even closer to you. The other part is to connect with new people. On Facebook. I mean, and also utilize your profile page, because the Facebook pages are not doing that well right now with the algorithm. And that's okay. But here's the thing, you have to connect with real people. Social media is social media. It's social, right? We're in a very social climate, and it's online. And so take advantage of connecting with new people, making sure they're not bots, of course, but actually reaching out and communicating. And the biggest thing is engaging. Right? We need to engage with people. So don't just connect with people and don't talk to them. You need to connect with them and communicate with them. So C and C, right? Connect and communicate. And that's going to be a great way to be able to build your platform, because more and more people are getting to know you. They're getting to know your writing, whether you're blogging or doing devotionals in the meantime until your book is published. And then the other part is to collaborate. That is what we're doing. A lot of us are doing that right now, and just getting on other platforms, because I think they call them borrowed platforms, where you're actually able to write on other platforms and, do podcast circuits and things like that. So more and more people can get to know you. And what that does is it brings them, your audience, or new audience members, to your website, or they can actually sign up for your freebies and get on your email list. And so that's going to be a great way to do that. But the biggest thing I'll tell people is to show up and keep showing up. Just keep showing up, because the more you show up out there, the more people are going to see your content, hear your content, see your content, and get connected with you.
That's such great advice. And especially about, part of our social media is posting our content, right? But the other big part is actually engaging. And I love that you talked a lot about that, especially with Facebook, because I know Facebook gets a bad rap these days, but oh gosh, it's where people are, right? I mean, it's
That's
where I hang
right.
out. Hey, I wanted to pop in and give a quick shout out to one of my listeners who left a review of the show. Krista says, "I'm so glad Kim started a podcast. Her experience in book marketing and her love for the people and the messages she serves makes her a go-to resource. Thanks, Krista. Krista Hutchins is author of Moving Forward, Inspiration for the Go-Getter Jesus Girl, and she's also host of the Just One Simple Thing podcast, and you can connect with her on Instagram at Do a New Thing. Now let's get back to today's episode. So, hey, I want to ask you about your email list because that's a hot topic, of course, right now. I mean, it has been for years, but I think for some of us, we're a little slow to it. And so we're getting all excited about growing our email list and talking to our subscribers. Have you seen any certain lead magnets that have been more successful over others for you to promote your book?
Yes. One that went over really, really well is when I actually gave 1 month free. So because I have them broken into months, the weeks, there's a theme for each one, and then it's broken into 4 weeks. So what I did was I actually did August, and I gave away August for free. And that was all about controlling your emotions. So of course, women are wanting to control their emotions. That's a big topic, right? And so I had like over 100 plus email subscribers, and it wasn't even a month. It wasn't even a month. It was close to a month, and I was just seeing this engagement, and I was seeing this tick up in my email list growing. And so that's why I say Facebook ads, they definitely work. But I did that. So I reached out and I allowed Facebook to, reach out to this specific audience, and, you target your audience and who you want to reach. But it was new people that hadn't had a chance to hear anything from me, but this is an opportunity for them to get to know me through that freebie. So I would say just if you have a book, I want to say that if you have a book, take a chapter, give a chapter away, give the introduction away, or give a portion of your book away. And then the other part is to create some type of maybe tip, maybe 3 to 5 tips, or maybe create a mini course, or to create a mini devotional or something like that. Something that you can give away that is going to be beneficial to the readers and to the audience. That's going to want them to give you their email, and so that's the biggest thing, is really just kind of sit down, pray about it, and ask the Lord what to create, and then take the time to create it. There are a lot of steps behind the scenes in creating those and getting the, email automation behind the scenes. So that way, once they get that freebie, they can either download it right away, or they can, get an automated email right after that. That kind of allows them to have that second way to get that freebie. I always suggest that, because sometimes people miss that download, right? And you don't want them to miss it. So there are a lot of steps involved. So just really, I encourage authors and speakers and those who are listening right now is to take the time to create that good freebie, even if it's 10 or 15 or 25 tips, but just give them something that's really going to benefit them, and you will definitely have them hooked.
Yeah, that's so great. And I'm so glad you suggested that, because I know a lot of times people are afraid to run ads to free things, because that's what they think is like, okay, I'm paying money to give them something free. But I love that you really communicated the value of that, right? You're connecting with these new people that may not have seen you otherwise, and they're getting on your email list, which is all of our goals right now, is to get people on our email list and be able to communicate with them back and forth. So I love that you talked about that. Okay. So also I wanted to say kudos, and I'm gonna definitely put a link to this in the show notes, to your blog cover stories that you're doing. So speaking of, you mentioned collaboration is big for you, because I think that's an amazing thing that you're doing, just really lifting up other women. And I think we just can't do enough of that in our community. So I love that. I'm gonna definitely put a link to that, but I'd love to just kind of hear how you got started doing that, because that is such a great way to collaborate with other women in our niche.
Yes. Thank you so much for mentioning that. I wanted to do something different. I've been blogging since 2011, and I wanted to start a magazine a long time ago, but I was like, you know what? I don't have time to put together a full-fledged magazine. Kudos to those who are doing magazines. I think that's awesome if you have the time to do it. But for me, I just didn't have the time to do it. So I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to do cover stories, because bloggers, we are like new media. And so we have all kinds of media organizations and companies that reach out to get stories from bloggers. They're like, get the bloggers, get the bloggers. Why? Because we have an audience, an already made audience, a listening audience that's ready to receive the content. And so that's why they want to reach out to us. And so I said, you know what, I'm going to do cover stories and be able to, meet with women, collaborate with these women to be able to tell their story, but also if they have products and services and things that they want to offer, then basically just giving them that opportunity and that platform, that space to be able to go forth and do that and share that with an audience that they may not have had before. So I love it. I absolutely love it. And
Yeah.
they love it too.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, that's amazing. Okay, I'm going to ask you, y'all have all heard all about Courtney and her amazing, just your marketing brain. If you haven't clued into this, you have an amazing marketing brain. I mean, I know you're writing for the Lord and you love sharing God's word and Bible study with
Mhm.
women, but holy cow, you do have an amazing marketing brain. And I can certainly appreciate that. So
Thank
I would
you.
love to just shift hats on you a little bit. So obviously everybody's going to know you're coming at this from being an author and speaker, but now I want you to put on your PR hat because I didn't know until recently that you have your own PR agency and you
Yeah.
have services and you do a lot of mentoring. And I would just love for you to share how you work with Christian communicators in that way.
Absolutely. Yes. My background, my professional background is PR and marketing. And so I love to spread the word. I love to market. I love to see great content out there. And I always say, out of sight, out of mind. If it's not out there,
Mm-hmm.
nobody's going to know about it. Right. So what I do in my agency is I help women. Of course, I do website design. I also do press kits and media kits and speaker kits. I also do PR campaigns. I do pitches, podcast
Mm-hmm.
circuits, things like that, press releases and course creation. I also have coaching and mentorship programs. I do a group mentorship program where I help women who are writers and speakers and authors and who are just wanting to get that message out there even more. And so what I do is I bring them a little bit closer into this group session and I train them, but I also mentor them. So they have calls
Mm-hmm.
with me as well. So just basically helping them to reach their goals. But I also do book projects as well. So I do ghostwriting, I do layout and design, and I also put together marketing campaigns and launch team strategies and things like that. So it's pretty loaded. I've
Yeah, that's
also done,
amazing.
yes, and I've also done social media campaigns where I actually create the content for them, monthly calendars and monthly content. So, and actually get it scheduled as well. So I do a lot of things
You
for
do.
myself, but also I help others as well.
Yeah, that's so amazing. I had no idea you do all that. And I'm sure our listeners are going to just be so excited to check you out after this and all the different ways that they could get some help from you. So I wanted to ask you specifically, we talk a lot about podcast pitching on here, and I know you've been a guest on a lot of podcasts,
Mhm.
which is I just love it. And I'm sure you do love it too, just the way you can connect, just like we're doing today. But I'd love
Yeah.
to just ask you a little bit about I know you write for a lot of publications, and I know
Mhm.
you've also been on several TV segments, and you probably help
Mhm.
others with that too. Will you
Yeah.
just kind of, I mean, is there, and this could be a whole nother conversation, but I just would love for you to just maybe share some tips on both of those, because I think that's just a really scary area. Like, I think we're all just kind of getting used to a little bit more used to like being on podcasts, but like to pitch
Mhm.
publications and TV just seems
Yeah.
like this scary thing that you can't do without a huge PR agency behind you. So I'd love for you to share some tips with our listeners about that.
Sure thing. So you're going to have to get used to pitching yourself these days.
Mhm.
Yes, because people want to hear these different hosts, podcast hosts, or TV hosts, or um, print publications. They want to hear from you. And so it's good to have a publicist. If you have a publicist, I think that is awesome. Hello, I do PR, right? But on the other side of that is that you can actually pitch yourself. If you don't have the budget to actually do that, then you can actually just reach out, go to the websites and see there's usually a contact form where you can actually fill it out yourself as the author, as a speaker, and look into being a guest on the show, whether that's a podcast or a TV show. The biggest thing is having a story, having something to share. Do you have a good story? That's the biggest thing when you're looking into these media outlets is they want a hot topic, they want a hot story. And so if you have something that is newsworthy for them, then you want to go ahead and pitch your story. But also paying attention to the actual audience that these podcast hosts have or that these TV shows have or radio shows have. You want to make sure that you're listening in, that you're watching, that you're paying attention to the type of guests that they have on the show. Who is their audience? Are they moms? Are they wives? Are they older, younger? Are they teachers? Are they dealing with mental health? What are they actually talking about? And get in on that conversation. And if your story matches, then go ahead and pitch them. And so that's what I would say. I do a lot of pitching. I do a lot of pitching for myself as well. Even for speaking, I want to say that because some people
Mhm.
are like, how do I get more speaking opportunities? One thing, like I said, you do have to show up and be out there and be very, very, present and say some good stuff out there and teach and preach.
Mhm.
But the other part is to actually go to some of the websites, look who those event hosts are and reach out to them, email them, let them know that you are a speaker. Send off your speaker sheet, your one sheet or your media kit and kind of introduce yourself to them. And sometimes you'll be amazed at the opportunities that you'll get. And before you know it, you'll be at their next conference.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, Courtney, will you just, and like I said, I know we can dig into that probably at another time for a lot. I just would, there's just so much that you do that I think is just amazing because, we do keep hearing about how we need to build our platform and get out there and serve, find our readers and serve them well, like you talked about on social media, as well as writing and speaking. And you never know who you're reaching in all those different ways. So, kudos to
Mhm.
you because you certainly set a beautiful example for doing that. So, hey,
Thank
tell us
you.
where our listeners can best connect with you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kim. I so appreciate this. They can reach me on CourtnayRichard.com. My name is spelled a little bit differently, so I'm going to go ahead and spell it for them right quick. It's Courtnaye, and the last name is spelled like Richard.com. So my mom was very creative with my name, but that is where they can find me. That's more of my brand site, but they can also find me on InsideOutMediaGroup.com, and that's where all my PR and marketing information is.
Okay, so Courtney, thank you so much for being our guest today. I really do appreciate it.
Sure thing. Thank you so much for having me, Kim. I had fun.
Oh, y'all, I hope Courtney encouraged your heart like she did mine. Here's to setting healthy boundaries as we market our books so we can prioritize our time for walking with the Lord. We know He's in charge of the message He gave us. I'd love to hear what you thought of today's show. Send me a DM on Instagram at KimStewInspired. Thanks for tuning in. And just as a reminder, we're going fortnightly. So I'll see you back here in 2 weeks to cheer you on to market your book one podcast at a time.